I love the smell of tung oil in the morning. It smells like victory. Hey guys, if you enjoy watching the guitar building videos that I post up here on my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it if you might consider supporting my channel by visiting my YouTube merch store. Down below the description for this video, you'll see my merch shelf. And on that shelf, I've got t-shirts, plans for building guitars, and plans for making the tools that we use to build guitars. And if you can't see that merch shelf, don't worry, there's a link in the description as well. So just know that any purchase you make is going to help support this channel, plus you're getting something in return. Now, if you would like to support the channel, but don't want to spend any money, that's okay too. Just be sure to click the thumbs up button. That'll tell YouTube to promote my videos. Now let's get on with today's video. Well, obviously this video is going to be about applying tung oil as a finish for a guitar. And specifically, the product I'm going to be talking about is polymerized tung oil. You see, there are a number of different types of tung oil products out there. If you go into your local hardware store, you'll probably find a product labeled tung oil finish. Now, nobody really knows what's inside these products. In fact, I know a lot of folks who claim there's absolutely no tung oil in them whatsoever. I don't know if that's true or not. I've looked at some of the safety data sheets, and I can't really tell what the products contain other than they contain hardening agents or drying agents that are used to help speed up the drying process of the oil. You can also, if you go to a specialty woodworking supply store, you can typically purchase pure tung oil, which obviously is nothing more than just plain old tung oil in a container with no other additives in it. There's no thinners, there's no hardening agents, nothing. Now in the past, I've used boiled linseed oil is my preferred finish of choice on guitar necks, and that's because it's incredibly easy to apply. And you have an option of adding the cobalt type dryers to it if you want to really speed up the drying process. And typically in the past I've recommended Japan dryer. There's also some other products that you can get from art supply stores which help speed up the drying of artist oil paints, and that works well in the boiled linseed oil. However, one of the disadvantages of using boiled linseed oil is after you've applied it and it soaks into the wood and dries, it loses its luster. When you first apply it, it looks great. It has that kind of shiny luster that really enhances the look of the wood grain, especially if it's a figured wood like flame maple. It can bring out that 3D effect. But once it dries, it goes to a matte sheen and it loses some of that effect. And a lot of people ask me, how can they apply an oil finish and still maintain that look, it's called chatoyance, and it's the way that the wood develops kind of that 3D effect as a result of the sheen in the oil. And since boiled linseed oil doesn't maintain that when it dries, the only way you can really achieve it is if you apply some sort of a lacquer clear coat over the top, whether it's nitrocellulose or 2K polyurethane or regular wipe-on polyurethane. So that's really the only way that you can bring that look back into it, and that just sort of complicates matters, and it also changes the way the neck feels. Well, you can also achieve that by using a different type of oil finish, which is called polymerized tung oil. What polymerized tung oil is, it's pure tung oil which has been put through a specific heating process. This is not something you can do at home, so don't even attempt it. But it's heated in a very specific way for a very specific time to a very specific temperature and then cooled. And what that does is it triggers the oil's natural tendency to dry. And it also produces a liquid which is very thick and gummy. So what they do is they add solvent to it, typically mineral spirits. And what that does is it thins it out to a consistency which allows it to be applied to wood. But because that drying process has been triggered, once it's applied to the wood, instead of taking days or weeks or even months to fully dry and cure, it takes hours. Typically anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. So I decided I was going to use that on this guitar project. And what I did was I purchased a polymerized tung oil product from a company called Lee Valley. And I'll put a link in the description below. But as it turns out, the product that Lee Valley sells is actually manufactured for them by another company called Sutherland Wells. Sutherland Wells has a very good reputation for making the world's best polymerized tung oil products. And they have a whole range of different products, different sheens, different purposes. Like, for example, they sell a tung oil. It's a polymerized tung oil sealer filler. Then they have low, medium, and high luster tung oil finishes. They also sell a tung oil, a polymerized tung oil that uses an all-natural, I believe it's a citrus-based type solvent, so it's much lower in toxicity and VOCs than the original formula that uses mineral spirits. Anyway, by purchasing the product from Lee Valley, what I was getting was the Sutherland Wells original formula polymerized tung oil that uses the mineral spirits, but this was formulated to yield the high luster finish, which is what I was after. So in order to apply it, I decided to follow the instructions for applying the product from Sutherland Wells, and I visited their website, and they have a project page which lists all different kinds of woodworking projects and their recommendations for applying their products for those specific situations. And among the projects they have listed is a guitar. So I decided to follow the instructions for applying the tung oil on the guitar. And I'll put a link as well to that page so you can check out how they recommend applying it. What's cool is they have instructions for a low sheen, a medium sheen, and a high sheen. And since I was using the Lee Valley high sheen, I decided to follow those instructions. And as you can see, there are 7 steps in the process, and it's really not that complicated. You will have to set aside several days in which to do the applications. But once you've finished with your last coat and given it a 24-hour drying period, you're done. It's finished. You're ready to go. And I followed that process when applying the finish to this neck. And what I did was I sanded the entire surface of the wood, starting with 220 grit sandpaper, and then I worked through 320 and then finished with 400. And I got the surface as smooth as I possibly could get it. I wiped it all off with a tack rag to get it clean. And then I applied a trans tint dye stain. And what I did was I took a small cup of water and I mixed into it a couple of drops of the trans tint brown dye stain and then applied that to the wood. Now, because this is a water-based dye stain, the grain raised as it dried. And what that means is the fibers on the surface of the wood curl up as it dries. And that's why you may have noticed when you take a piece of wood and wipe it with a damp rag, when it dries, you can feel that rough texture. It almost feels like 5 o'clock shadow. So what has to happen next is that raised grain has to be removed. So I wiped the entire surface of the wood down with a Norton triple aught synthetic scrubbing pad. And that removed all the raised grain. It also removed the dye stain from the closed grain portions of my figured wood while leaving it in the open grain. That's where you see the stripes in this figure. So that helps the stain to pop the grain and the figure of the wood to make it really stand out. Once that was done, I wiped everything off again with a tack rag, and then I began that process of applying the polymerized tung oil, following the instructions from Sutherland Wells. And after step 7, I let it dry overnight, and I have to say I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I have that super silky smooth feel to the back of the neck. It didn't take very long to apply, and there's really nothing else that I have to do to it. I don't have to level sand it. I don't have to buff it. It just has that gorgeous look to it. And the wood develops that slightly darker, warmer hue when you apply the oil, which I find highly appealing when you're trying to achieve that natural wood finish. And I'm also in the process right now of applying it to the body of the guitar. So if you're looking for a hand-rubbed oil finish that's going to maintain that high luster after it dries, I would definitely recommend the Polymerized Tung oil products, either from Lee Valley or from Sutherland Wells. Either way, you're getting basically the same product. Now, I haven't tried the environmentally friendly product yet. I may do that down the road after I have used up all the original formula that I purchased. But boy, this is really looking nice, and I have to say I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. At any rate, I hope you found this video to be useful. If so, give me a thumbs up to show support. If you'd like to leave a little tip, click the thanks button down below and leave a little tip for me. And otherwise, you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's a number of different ways that you can help support the channel financially and get something in return. Either way, whether you click the thanks button or purchase a t-shirt or plans or whatever, just know that your purchase is going to help support this channel. It's going to mean I can improve my camera equipment, my audio, lighting, and hopefully one day maybe a better studio or workshop. So, you know, we'll see. At any rate, until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.